Hey there, I'm Stan Baker, one of your hosts for Circle Forum. And in this episode, Shelley Steele, Steve Young, and I continue the third of our conversations about an article written by Dr. Jess Whitley of the University of Ottawa and Dr. Beth Saggers of Queensland University of Technology. And it's called School Attendance Problems Are Complex and Our Solutions Need to Be as Well. Student attendance needs are indeed complex, and many of the risk factors are outside of what schools can actually do. So, school climate actually falls directly inside what schools can impact, and restorative practices can provide some practical things that make a difference. For example, at your next meeting with parents, start with the parents. Secondly, consider the kinds of questions you ask. And then thirdly, just listen openly. At the end of this episode, visit our website, www.restorative.ca. Follow us on YouTube, Circle Forum. And now let's head over to the conversation with Shelley, Steve, and me, Stan.
What I really like about the climate part of the article is it's not just about students, it's staff and families. And families are a huge piece, and they're our community. We need the parents or the family support to have kids come to school regularly. And if they don't feel connected to the school or honored by the school or respected by the school, and their kid isn't really interested in going to school for whatever reason, it's not going to be the same kind of push if they're not feeling respected by the school. So I think often the family piece around climate gets missed sometimes when we're talking about school climate.
And it can sometimes be the most challenging part because families and parents' experiences of school may not have been all that positive. And as a result, they're bringing just a whole bag full of
Yeah,
baggage,
right.
a cart full of baggage to the conversation or to the school. And it's their own experience that's getting in the way of their child coming.
It's interesting because it talks in this section about climate about extracurriculars, and everybody knows I'm big on that. But we don't often include parents in our extracurricular programs. It's always been something that the teachers have done or the support staff or school staff does it. And yet things started to get tough to get coaches and whatnot. We started looking at parents saying, is there a parent out there that can come in and help us? And it was amazing how many we found that are willing to come in and run clubs and activities and all sorts of things. And you work it out with them a time of day that they can do it. And some of these people work shift work and whatnot. Say, look, I can come in Wednesday at noon, every Wednesday at noon and do stuff with the kids. And so they run a club. Apart from helping us to provide those extracurriculars, it's also bringing these adults into the building so they can see how the kids function in their school. Sometimes they're watching their own kids and they're amazed at how different their kids are at school than they are at home. So I think we need to do more of that. Unfortunately, we have to cut through a lot of red tape and some tried and true beliefs about parents' buildings, but they are a fantastic resource. They take a bit of work to make sure you're getting the right people and going through all of the vetting and all that stuff, but they can certainly provide a huge amount of extracurricular for your school. But at the same time, become your best advocates when they're out in the community talking about the school. Hey, I'm in the school 3 times a week and this is what I'm seeing. And they start listing off all the things the positive things they're seeing. Hopefully they're seeing positive things when they're at the rink or at the ball diamond or whatever. They become your ambassadors out in the community. So it all builds. It's a positive thing. That's all about positive school climate as well.
I think that one of the key lines in here that is problematic for schools is that schools can provide opportunities for shared decision making. And as schools, we're not really good at that.
No.
Like we're really good at controlling all the stuff that goes on in the schools. Like the heck you say we're going to provide shared decision making with parents. And yet that opportunity, if it's missed, really impacts climate. And I think
For sure.
restorative practices and a relational way of doing things can include people simply by the way you meet with others. That in a parent meeting, for example, simple thing of allowing the parent to go first, just that. If that's all you did, it would change the nature of your meetings. Then I think secondly, the kinds of questions you're asking in the meeting. So, what's happening with the extracurriculars at our school from your perspective? Wow. Two little things. Start with the parent and look at a very restorative question to start off the conversation.
And truly listen. Not just asking the questions, to be really open and listening. I can remember being at a parent council meeting, and I was always part of parent council all the way through elementary and secondary. When I got to secondary, it didn't take long to realize it was just to tick the box that we had a parent council. The principal was just there to deliver the information, and we were to nod, basically. So I checked out. And I was somebody who was from kindergarten to grade 8 or 9 involved, and the chair of the council, that kind of thing. And then I was realized, oh, I really don't have a role here. You're just trying to say that you're communicating with parents in this way, but really we're just here for you to deliver what you want to be said.
So, the result there was they lost a really valuable contributor to the school community.
Yes.
And those are the things that we often miss, the people who aren't showing up to help out. When actually in high school, we need parents more than ever. We need parents on side. We need help with these. Like, parenting through the teen years is brutal. It is just brutal. And we need ways to connect with parents and to include them. That is really meaningful and more than just checking a box, because that does not help school climate.
I'll take us back to that same line about schools can provide opportunities for shared decision making. It's not just with the parents, it's also the students. And we've talked about student voice. And when we do circles, it allows every kid to have their voice heard. And we've often used in a lot of our workshops the idea of using for the student that talking circle or a circle with your class to develop classroom expectations on rainy days. And we're going on a field trip. And what are the expectations? Having the kids contribute their voice, their shared decision making in practice. And so restorative practices is beautifully set up to allow that to happen. And schools can provide that if they allow people to use that process in their classes. Hey, the kids came up with the rules for what happens on a rainy day, and they're all in the classroom. We know we have some control over that in terms of maintaining safety and whatnot. But when the kids come up with the ideas, they're going to do them. They're more likely to be behaved when there isn't an adult in the room for 40 minutes on a rainy day. So yeah, it's restorative practices has all those potential to allow schools to do that. So I love the word can, because schools can provide those opportunities. The real question is, will they provide those
Right.
opportunities?
Yeah. And the other thing that is really big in this little paragraph in this article is the whole idea of bullying and harassment, racism, homophobia, anti-Indigenous racism, all of those kinds of things really impact kids that are gay, kids that are Indigenous, kids that are bullied. Like, they don't want to come to school. And for us to have to face the fact that there is a really strong anti-gay sentiment in our building, or that Indigenous kids are centered out and overrepresented, for example, in our suspensions and expulsions. Like, that takes some real self-examination that I think is really challenging for a school. And yet, with restorative practices, unless you start to address those kinds of issues, school climate will still continue to be one of the factors that impacts attendance. Now, we can't do a lot about some of the things that impact attendance. School climate is something we can do something about. That's within the purview of the school as well.
Absolutely.
I just think about when we think about people coming into the school to do extracurriculars, we haven't always done a great job with advertising that we're open for that, and advertising that it could be all sorts of things. Because again, depending on your school experience and your comfort level in school, are you going to walk in the door and say, hey, I'd like to volunteer and I'd like to teach kids how to do A, B, or C? And it may not been anything thought of, but it may be reaching out to some of those kids that don't usually fit into some of the extracurriculars, whether that's, I don't know, it could be anything, but not the usual chess club or knitting club or whatever. It could be something different. But we don't advertise that we're looking for people that may not fit the mold of what people believe fits in a school. So we haven't done a great job at that. And people don't generally just walk in and say, I can offer my skills.
To advertise that would indicate that we have a need that we're not meeting. And we're
Mm.
all about making sure that we cover all the bases. We're doing okay. And in fact, to admit, for example, that we need more people to help with knitting clubs because we have kids who need to keep their hands busy.
With pointed sticks.
Yeah, with pointed sticks, of course.
Perfect.
So,
So I'll weigh in on that as a former principal. Yes, every year as far as I can remember, we always had parents would volunteer. They give me a call, they'd send me an email. Hey, look, if anybody's looking, I can come in. And we were always seeking volunteers, but it was volunteers for what the teacher wanted, not
Yes.
for what the parents wanted or the kids wanted. And so as soon as I figured that out pretty early on, and I think it could have been one of these times when we just didn't have a lot of people coaching or whatnot. So I remember sending a letter out to the community. Hey, if you're interested in helping at the school, if you have a talent, if you have a skill, if you have something you think the kids would be interested, let me know and we'll see if we can make it happen. You have to have your police check and you have to do all these things. You have to sign it. We had all these things. We had to get past it all. And you can do all that, but you have to really make the parents feel welcome in the building. Sometimes we don't make the parents feel that welcome in the building. But as soon as I sent that out saying, if you've got something, a skill or a talent you think the kids might be interested in, let me know. And all of a sudden we started getting cartooning clubs and all these kind of things
Right.
that the teachers never thought about. And the kids sort of, yeah, I never even thought about that, but yeah, I'd love to do that. And they're getting 60, 70, 80 kids signing up. And I'm looking for other people to try and be in there to keep the crowd under control. We did a cartooning club. We had over 100 kids wanted to take part. And this parent come in and he was great. Came in organized. He had stuff that he was going to do. And with the outcome that by the end of the year, each kid was going to produce their own comic book. Loved it. We had to put it into 2 groups because we didn't have a room big enough. I had to find other staff to go in and support because there is a rule. There must be a staff member in the room. It can't just be a parent with a bunch of kids. We found the ways to make it work, but that whole cartooning club came out of the fact that this was a parent who loved comic books. He'd grown up with comic books, had huge collection of them, and he liked to draw. And he said, do you think the kids would like cartooning? Well, I don't know. Let's ask them. They voted with their feet. They all showed up.
So it seems that complexity is the word of the week when it comes to addressing student attendance. So when academics like the ones who wrote this article suggest that school climate impacts attendance, we should get right on that. Giving parents and students a voice, a sense of belonging and agency to act are all restorative approaches that help build a positive school climate. Now, you want to find out more about restorative practice and how to be intentional about building that school climate and those connections with students and with parents, send me an email at stan@restorative.ca. Check out our free resources, www.restorative.ca. And let's get parents and students involved in conversations that really matter when it comes to school climate.